This is the Italian Real Estate Podcast, here to help you with the ins and outs and basics of Italian real estate, presented by ItalianRealEstateLawyers.com. Hello there, and welcome to another edition of the Italian Real Estate Podcast, presented by ItalianRealEstateLawyers.com. Of course, we are back here again with Italian attorney Marco Permunian. How are you doing today?
Good, how are you?
I am doing great, thank you. And I am Rafael Di Furia, and in this episode, we wanted to talk about how to get a good deal when purchasing property in Italy. Of course, no matter where you're purchasing property around the world, you want to make sure that you can get it for the best price. And in this episode, we wanted to talk about some practical tips. So, Marco, maybe just before even getting into what you would look for or how you would look for or why you would look for, what are some of the first initial things that someone can do to make sure that they're prepared for even finding the best deal and understanding what they need to have in front of them?
So as you said, the tips that we're going to give in this episode are general tips that you could use in other countries, but we're going to try to make it specifically about Italy because there are some peculiarities that people need to keep in mind when dealing with sellers in Italy, and some things that only apply to Italian sales. But I guess my first tip is regarding the fact that in Italy, everybody knows it. Everything is subject to negotiation. No matter if you're buying a property, if you're buying a toaster at a local electric shop, and it might not be common today, but I remember clearly growing up negotiating when I was buying clothes from the local stores. But specifically regarding properties, like I said, in Italy, people have it in their blood. They want to negotiate. But if you're looking to buy a property in an area that is very desirable, especially areas like Tuscany or Rome or Venice, areas where everybody wants to buy, especially foreigners, do not negotiate too much. Now, think that the average seller in Italy already sells the property, or lists a property, I should say, for a price that is at least 5% higher than the price that they want to get from the sale. So they are expecting, no matter what, a negotiation. But if the property is located in an area that is very desirable, do not try to negotiate too much and go straight to the point. Just offer maybe an amount that is very close to the amount that you're prepared to pay, but do not offer an amount that is too far away from that amount. And there will be areas in Italy where that are very, very desirable, where sellers are not even willing to decrease the price by 1,000 euros or 10 euros, but that's generally not the norm. They, like I said, expect some negotiations at some point to some extent, but there will be situations, like I said, where some sellers, some isolated cases, probably will not be willing to negotiate, not even one tiny bit.
Well, since we're on the topic, would you maybe be up for going into what some of those situations might be where a seller may be less interested in negotiating on the price? And are there any kind of patterns that can be looked out for?
Well, obviously, if there is a lot of demand in that specific area, then the prices, first of all, will go up and there will be less willingness to negotiate. And if you're buying, for example, in areas in southern Italy, where prices are lower compared to northern Italy or central Italy, if it's rural areas or areas that are not very popular among foreigners, then you will have a lot more room for negotiations. And of course, things that you can look at are the neighborhood. So you should try and look not only at the property itself, but also at the surrounding properties, the neighborhood itself, and also how long has the property been listed for sale. Is it a short period of time? Is it a very long time? And of course, if the property has been on sale for a very long time, there's more room for negotiations. Also, another factor that could tip the scale in your favor is if you're willing to pay cash, meaning that sellers, they will prefer a quick process compared to a long process where, for example, you have to wait for the approval of the bank to obtain a mortgage. So if you're willing to pay cash, you can expect to be able to negotiate a little bit more compared to situations where you are in need of a mortgage. And in a lot of these transactions, a real estate agent will be involved because the property is being sold through a real estate agent. And a lot of people will be tempted to ask the real estate agent what the right price to offer in that specific situation. But I wouldn't go for the direct approach because the real estate agent has a vested interest in giving you an amount that is as high as possible in terms of how much should you offer, because they are paid a percentage of the purchase price. So the more you offer, the more they earn. Instead of going for the direct approach, you should probably ask other questions. For example, how long has the property been on the market? Have there been previous offers? And if so, how long ago? Were they rejected for what reasons? And so all of these things will help you understand which is the right amount to be offered in a specific situation. And of course, my best advice is to get a lawyer, somebody who can offer advice on these things, including how much should you offer, what's the right price to offer in this specific situation, especially if you're a foreigner, because real estate agents in Italy will be more inclined to be less realistic with foreigners, people who are not familiar with the Italian real estate market.
Well, Marco, that's actually really interesting, and especially to know that the agents are incentivized to try and get the amount as high as possible when they are working on behalf of the seller. It definitely makes sense, especially working on a percentage. But I am curious about something. When working with the agent, is there ever any negotiation room on the agent's fee? Or I realize I'm also compounding questions here, but do they have any obligation to submit any offer that a person wants to make, or are they able to refuse that?
So the agent, in theory, should present to the seller any offer that is made by anyone. So they should be obligated to inform the seller of any kind of offer that is received by other people. However, practically speaking, the agent will not, of course, present to the seller offers that are too low or unrealistic, offers that were already rejected before, or offers that are not likely to be accepted. Now, I have to tell you that agents, sometimes they go a little bit too far and they arbitrarily decide which offers to present to the sellers and which offers not to present based on, of course, the amount that is being offered, which they shouldn't be doing, which is, again, reiterating that they have a vested interest, that they, of course, they're professionals. They want to only bring offers that are realistically likely to be accepted. But at the same time, they have an obligation of truth and they should present all of the offers that are received. So ultimately, when you're dealing with a real estate agent, be sure that your offer is presented to the seller, because sometimes, like I said, they take a liberty to not presenting offers that maybe they would be accepted by the sellers. And also regarding their fees, yes, there is room for negotiation. So the standard real estate agent fee is about the 3%, which is not insignificant, especially considering that they're going up. I've seen situations where agents were asking the 4%, the 5%. So make sure that you also negotiate their fees, because like I said, they're going up. And sometimes there's no justification for this increase. And of course, the law does not establish which fee the real estate agent is entitled to. So their fees are determined by themselves, which is why there is room for negotiation. And it's realistically likely that you will be able to get their fees a little bit down, especially if we are talking about local agents and not, those big chains that are present worldwide, that will be less likely and less willing to reduce their fees, even if it's, I've seen those entities reducing their fees as well in some situations.
Well, Marco, that's really interesting. And just before we end off, do you have any other final tips for dealing with these agents?
Yes. So when you're dealing with an agent, make sure that you ask a series of questions that allow you to determine how much you can offer. And these questions were kind of described before at the beginning of the episode. How long has the property been for sale? Have there been previous offers? But also this should allow you to decide whether to actually submit an offer or wait for the agent to contact you. Because again, this may be very peculiar to Italy. there are some situations where you want to verbally ask information about a property to an agent and wait for them to contact you. Again, it needs to be a situation where the property is located in an area where there's not a lot of demand and the property maybe has been for sale for a while. But I've seen situations where real estate agents have contacted people who expressed interest in a property to ask them, are you ready to make an offer, a formal offer? We talked about this property. You called me. Do you want to make an offer? And if that happens, it means that there is even more room for negotiation compared to a standard situation.
Wow, that's very interesting that they are there coming and actually showing you their level of not desperation, but readiness to get the deal done. But Marco, really, thank you so much again for making yourself available for this episode of the Italian Real Estate Podcast. And of course, if anybody is looking to have someone helping them along the way and fighting on their side to help them get the best deal, how can they get in contact with you and your team?
People can contact us through our website, italianrealestatelawyers.com, or give us a call. Our number is on the website.
Well, that's absolutely fantastic. And of course, if you're interested in more discussions like this about Italian real estate, where to purchase property in Italy or where to live in Italy, be sure that you're subscribed on YouTube as well as the audio only podcast. But of course, if you're following on YouTube, that means you're automatically subscribed to the Italian Citizenship Podcast, where we talk about legally residing in Italy and making Italy your home as a citizen of the nation. But of course, we have been here with Italian attorney from ItalianRealEstateLawyers.com, Mr. Marco Permunian. I'm Rafael Di Furia. Stay safe and healthy out there, and we will see you all next time. Later.
Thank you.